tonight on Y News. The Supreme Court orders the release of murder convict Rolito Go. Alleged gambling middleman Wally Sombero files graft complaints against two immigration officials allegedly involved in the Jack Lam extortion issue.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Perfecto Yasay wants United Nations Special Rapporteur Agnes Callamard to apologize to the Philippine government. The Bureau of Customs seizes 40 million pesos worth of alleged illegally imported glutinous rice from Vietnam.
The National Economic Development Authority, or NEDA, assures that American companies will not leave the Philippines despite Trump's presidency. And the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas reminds the public to exchange old currency banknotes until December 29.
Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center, this is Y News with Angelo Castro III, Gerry Alcantara, and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. Controversial road rage killer can now walk free from detention after the Supreme Court ordered his release. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
From detention of road rage murder convict Rolito Go. In an order issued by SC 3rd Division, the Bucor chief is directed to immediately release the ailing Go, who is currently under hospital detention at Metropolitan Hospital in Muntinlupa City. The High Court explains that Go has already completed his 30-year jail sentence last August 21, 2013. The SC ruled that Go's life sentence was automatically commuted to 30 years after he was granted a colonist status. Deducting his good conduct time allowance, Go's jail term has already expired more than 3 years ago. In their petition, the Bucor questioned the grant of colonist status to the construction magnate, saying only the president has the power to reduce jail terms. Go was convicted for murder in 1993 for killing engineering student Eldon Maguan during a traffic altercation in 1991. He became controversial for escaping prison twice. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Alleged gambling middleman Wally Sombero files a graft complaint against Bureau of Immigration officials Al Agrosino and Michael Robles. Monokson will tell us why.
Two Bureau of Immigration officials have been charged before the Office of the Ombudsman by alleged gambling middleman Wally Sombero. Sombero filed a graft case against the two immigration officials. Sombero is a former policeman and a former aide of gambling tycoon Jack Lam. Based on the complaint, Robles and Argusino are charged with a 150 million peso graft case. Recently, Robles and Argusino admitted that they have received 50 million pesos from Jack Lam. But this was contrary to what Sombero claims.
But when they demanded more, 50 million plus 50 million, I was shocked again na may ganito. Kaya ni-report ko kay General Lima. And then we planned for entrapment operation.
Sombero said he asked for advice from Justice Secretary Aguirre if he should pursue filing the case. Aguirre supposedly said that Sombero must do what is right, and this was the reason why the alleged middleman decided to file the complaint.
Hindi ko alam ang gagawin ko talaga sapagkat I witnessed something na hindi dapat nangyari sa ilalim ng administrasyon ng ating Pangulo.
Sombero denied that he received 2 million pesos from Agrosino. Charles Calima, the immigration intelligence, was supposed to be with Sombero in filing the complaint, but it is not Calima's concern anymore. Monhok Son, UNTV News and Rescue, Office of the Ombudsman.
The Department of Justice has issued an immigration lookout bulletin order against immigration officials and personalities involved in the alleged extortion of Chinese gambling tycoon Jack Lam. Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre says this is to ensure that they are readily available to present their side of the story. Included in the watch list were Associate Commissioners Al Argusino and Michael Robles, retired General Charles Calima, Wally Sombero, and others who are considered persons of interest. The NBI, BI, and National Prosecution Service have separate ongoing investigations on the incident. Sombero earlier revealed that Argusino and Robles extorted 50 million pesos from Jack Lam for the release of Chinese illegal workers arrested at his Fontana Casino in Clark, Pampanga. Argusino and Robles, however, said Lam tried to bribe them and they took the money as evidence in their investigation. Last Tuesday, the two immigration officials had turned over to the DOJ 30 million pesos of the alleged bribe money for safekeeping.
39 Chinese nationals undergo preliminary investigation before a prosecutional panel at the Department of Justice today. They are facing charges for illegal online gambling and were among the 1,400 Chinese illegal workers arrested in Fontana Casino in Clark, Pampanga last November 24. The panel has reset the hearing to January 13 of next year for the submission of their counter affidavits after their lawyer failed to appear during today's hearing. The complaints will be submitted for resolution thereafter. In other news, the Philippine National Police Anti-Illegal Drugs Group is appealing to those who have information and evidence against Lovely Adam Impal, the alleged drug supplier of Kerwin Espinosa, to come forward. Joanna will tell us why.
The Philippine National Police Anti-Illegal Drugs Group is calling on the public to coordinate with them if they have any information or evidence that would strengthen the filing of cases against Lovely Adam Impal. Impal is the alleged drug supplier of confessed drug lord Kerwin Espinosa. It was on December 5, 2016 when Lovely surrendered voluntarily to PNP Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa after Kerwin Espinosa identified her during the Senate hearing on Albuera Leyte Mayor Espinosa's lay. According to PNP AIDG Director Police Chief Superintendent Albert Ferro, they still do not have concrete evidences that will strengthen the filing of cases versus Impal on her alleged involvement in illegal drug trade in the country. The AIDG have freed Impal since the PNP have not issued a warrant against her. As of now, she is staying in a secured place along with her family.
Unfortunately, wala po kasi siyang warrant of arrest at wala po siyang any case that was filed against her. So, wala po tayong authority or legal basis para siya i-detain.
Ferro says Impal also asked them for security due to possible threats in her life.
Naghingi ng security para hindi siya mapahamak. Yung mga request niya po, ayaw niya ma-interview, ayaw niya ma-expose sa media kasi alam niyo naman po baka may mangyayari sa kanya.
The AIDG also explained that the local police unit in charge in areas where Impal operated illegal drugs have the jurisdiction to conduct an investigation. The PNP refused to identify the place where Impal is staying now, even the personality she mentioned in her affidavit that are involved in illegal drug trade in the country. Despite there is no criminal case filed yet, the PNP is not setting aside the possibility that Lovely is one of the high-value drug personality that police is looking into. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The PNP Internal Affairs Service will resume its pre-trial conference on the complaints against Police Superintendent Marvin Marcos and his men on January 10. Monhok Son will tell us why.
PNP Internal Affairs Service began its preliminary conference today on the administrative cases against over 20 policemen involved in the death of Mayor Rolando Espinosa Sr. However, AYA's Legal Affairs Service Chief Attorney Sheila Ujano Castillo, the hearing officer for the cases, said they weren't able to finish the preliminary conference because of too many documents that the prosecution and the accused have to submit. This prompted the IS to set another date for the continuation of the pre-trial conference, which will be on January 10, 2017.
In the pre-conferences, the marking of documents, what are the issues to be tackled, if there are stipulations or admissions of both parties, para malimit lang yung issue natin.
Afterwards, both sides will be given 15 days to submit their position papers, while the IAS will have 30 days to finish the hearing and release a resolution to be submitted to PNP Chief Police Director General Ronald Bato de la Rosa.
The resolution, not more than 1 month after the submission of the position paper.
Present in the hearing today were 13 personnel of the CIDG Region 8, led by Police Superintendent Marvin Marcos, Police Superintendent Santi Matira, Police Chief Inspector Leo Laraga. 6 members of the PNP Maritime Group who participated in the botch operation of the CIDG also attended the conference. IAS finished its preliminary investigation on December 12 and found probable cause to file charges of grave misconduct against the accused, which may result in their removal from service. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Perfecto Yasay wants UN Rapporteur Agnes Callamard to apologize to the Philippine government. Myla Guevara will tell us why.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Perfecto Yasay says UN Special Rapporteur Agnes Callamard did not follow required protocols of her job in investigating human rights violations and extrajudicial killings in the country.
I hope Ms. Callamard is not saying this, because if she's really concerned about confidentiality, why did she already immediately announce her findings without even investigating first? So it is so hypocritical for her to say now that she'd like to come to the Philippines and investigate and preserve the confidentiality that she needs in arriving at the conclusions, when she in fact already made the conclusions and was not very confidential in announcing the conclusions based on the fact based simply on media reports that were unverified. So I think the argument falls on that basis.
For this reason, the Foreign Affairs official insists Callamard must publicly apologize, immediately withdraw her arbitrary findings, and admit her mistake to the public.
She must apologize for the arbitrary findings that she has made. She must withdraw the findings immediately and admit in public before the international community, because it has unfairly damaged the country that this conclusion that she arrived at was not verified at all. And then, once that is made, she makes an application to come to the country on the basis of the protocols available.
Nevertheless, the Philippine government has not canceled the invitation of President Duterte to the UN official to conduct an investigation into the country. Yasay says it is now up to UN Special Rapporteur to whether to follow or not the conditions set by the President. One condition is for Callamard to have a public debate with President Duterte. Second is that the President must be able to ask her questions. And lastly, she must take an oath. Myla Guevara, UNTV News and Rescue, Singapore.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Perfecto Yasay says the cancellation of U.S. grant to the Philippines because of alleged human rights issues won't stop the Philippine government's war on drugs. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
If the cancellation of the aid for the Philippines of a U.S. aid agency is a ploy to stop the existing policies of the Philippine government, such as the independent foreign policy as well as the anti-drug war of the Duterte administration, Foreign Affairs Secretary Perfecto Yasay says this will never happen.
But we would like to make sure that if this is merely a ploy, this is merely a tact for us to be kowtowed, to bow down to their demands, we will not do so. If they don't want to help us, then we'll accept that.
The statement was made during the press briefing held in Singapore by some cabinet members, part of the Philippine delegation of the Singapore state visit of President Rodrigo Duterte. This is in relation to the recent decision of the Board of Directors of Millennium Challenge Corporation or MCC to defer the 5-year grant for the Philippines because of alleged violations on the rule of law and human rights because of the anti-drug war of the Duterte administration. MCC is an independent U.S. government agency working to reduce global poverty by assisting underdeveloped and developing countries through grants. The Philippines has been already a recipient of the grant for the first 5 year, which already closed in May, amounting to $434 million. Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Ernesto Pernia said this is not worrisome since there are many countries that signify their interest to invest in the Philippines. According to some cabinet members of President Rodrigo Duterte, if U.S. really treats the Philippines as an ally, it should help the country resolve its most pressing problems.
This has always been our appeal to America. Treat us with mutual respect and treat us as a sovereign equal. You cannot just simply say that, we would like to give this to you, but you have to toe the line insofar as our policies is concerned.
Instead of taking out the funds to support, dapat mas bigyan mo pa. Ayun din yung mga background yan sa mga GSP, Generalized System of Preferences, precisely to help the developing country in the development efforts.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Singapore.
Motorists are experiencing moderate to heavy traffic along EDSA southbound lane starting from North Avenue to Ayala Avenue. Nel Maribuhok is at EDSA Philam to tell us why live. Go ahead, Nel.
Darlene, as of this moment, motorists in most parts of Metro Manila are experiencing delays, particularly those in EDSA southbound. Let's take a look at the traffic situation here in EDSA. Starting from Balintawak area, vehicles are slow moving towards Muñoz area. Meanwhile, moderate to heavy traffic is experienced by motorists approaching SM North all the way here to the corner of Quezon Avenue. Motorists will continuously experience long delays once they reach Nepa Q-Mart and pass through Aurora Boulevard to Ortigas area. Moderate to heavy traffic will persist in northbound of EDSA going to SM Mega Mall, Shaw Boulevard and Pioneer. And still the volume of vehicles remains low moving all the way to Tramo area. Vehicles will loosen up once they reach Taft Avenue. Let's check out our live points. In EDSA Guadalupe, those coming from Magallanes, Ayala Avenue intersection and Guadalupe are stuck in traffic. But when they reach Cubao area up to Monte de Piedad, traffic becomes moderate to heavy. Vehicles will loosen up in Timog area but go slow moving as they approach Quezon Avenue all the way to Muñoz area. In Recto Avenue, Manila, going to Divisoria, vehicles will experience light to moderate traffic flow. And to those who are going to Legarda, vehicles are slow moving in that area. Meanwhile, in España area, expect moderate to heavy traffic from Maceda to Forbes, Lacson. Also to motorists bound to EDSA, moderate to heavy traffic from Lerma all the way to Welcome Rotunda. In EDSA Bagong Barrio, motorists bound to Monumento, vehicles are fast moving in that area. Meanwhile, light to moderate flow to those who are going to Balintawak and Muñoz area. In Marcos Highway, corner F. Mariano, Barangay de la Paz, Pasig City, vehicles bound to Antipolo area, moderate to heavy traffic from San Benildo School up to Robinson's Metro East. Vehicles will loosen up after Doña Juana all the way to SM Marikina. Meanwhile, going to Cubao area, expect moderate to heavy traffic from LRT2 station all the way to San Benildo School. And that is our traffic update here in EDSA. Back to you, Darlene.
Thank you, Nel. And that's Nel Maribuhok reporting live from EDSA Philam.
Next in Y News. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas reminds the public to exchange old currency banknotes until December 29.
Lawmakers want to examine reported delays in the issuance of new passports.
And fish cages in Laguna Lake face dismantling next year after the DNR rejects the renewal of fish pen owners' expiring permit.
Y News will be right back. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas reminds holders of old banknotes that they only have until December 29 to exchange the old paper bills in authorized banks. Marge Navarro will tell us why.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas started the demonetization process of the old banknote series on January 1, 2015 under Monetary Board Resolution number 1939. Under the program, BSP will gradually withdraw from circulation the old series of banknotes known as the NDS or New Design Series, which has been around since 1985. Exchange services will be available until the last banking day of 2016. However, this year, the last banking day is Thursday, December 29th, since December 30th is a regular holiday and December 31st, the last day of the year, falls on a Saturday. Thus, holders of old banknotes have until December 29 to exchange with the New Generation Currency or NGC. Otherwise, they no longer have the chance next year because NDS banknotes will fully lose their monetary value starting January 1, 2017. BSP's Deputy Director for Currency Issue and Integrity Office, Ms. Grace Malik says the primary purpose of changing currency banknotes is to prevent the proliferation of counterfeit money.
Ang bago natin ngayon, yung tinatawag natin New Generation Currency. Ito ay dinagdagan pa ng iba yung seguridad. So, kailangan na talagang
palitan
alisin. Palitan. Alam mo naman yung mga advancement ng teknolohiya. So itong mga mamimeke, napag-aralan na nila.
Overseas Filipino workers, immigrants, and non-resident Filipinos abroad are advised to register through BSP's website if they wish to exchange their old banknotes.
Binigyan po natin ito ng special accommodation. Ang mga overseas Filipinos natin ay binigyan natin ng chance makapagpalit ng mga dala-dala nilang NDS, yung ating old notes, na hindi nila mapalitan dahil ando doon sila sa labas ng bansa. Nag-open tayo ng website sa yung BSP website, https://orbs.bsp.gov.ph. Buksan lang nila yon at mag-register sila. Meron silang assurance sa pagbalik nila 1 year.
Even next year.
Pwede pa 1 year from the date of the registration, pwede pa nilang palitan.
Value for value.
Value for value.
In case an OFW couldn't come in person, he or she may send an authorized representative. Just make sure to provide them with the necessary documents such as the registration form and original passport of the old banknote owner for OFWs, registration form and birth certificate of the owner of the old banknotes for immigrants, and registration form plus proof of previous employment for non-residents. At present, around 2.6% of the total old banknotes is still in circulation. Marge Navarro, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Philippine government remains optimistic that American call center companies in the country will stay, although U.S. President-elect Donald Trump vows to tighten control over American companies operating abroad. Ray Pelaya will tell us why.
The National Economic Development Authority or NEDA is confident that American companies operating the Philippines will not leave the country. This despite the stricter regulations such as the pull-out of U.S. companies from different countries that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump plans to impose. NEDA says American companies operating outside the U.S. might face higher tax rates the moment Trump assumes office in 2017. However, NEDA noted it will be more expensive for the companies to transfer their business back to the U.S. and the pressures cannot equate the cheapest way to do business here in the Philippines.
It will still be more profitable for them to stay here than to pull up roots and go to the U.S. because it's going to be a lot more expensive there to operate in the U.S.
Meanwhile, the Philippines has opened its public-private partnership program to foreign investors, including China. Under the PPP, the Philippine government works with a private company to build infrastructures that would benefit the public, such as hospitals. According to the PPP Center, the country's public infrastructure has improved because of the PPP. Among the top supporters of the Philippines PPP are Australia, Canada, UK, US, and Japan. Pag nagpapagaling ka, gusto mo talaga na yung buong kailangan para ma-address yung problema mo hanggang sa gumaling ka, magkano ba ang cost nun compared sa cost na nangyayari ngayon? Yun yung mga dapat natin tingnan. Meanwhile, the cost of PPP projects is expected to rise because of the increase in the value of dollar. The PPP Center, however, assures that it has already done some calculations before approving projects. So in the contract between the government and the private sector, it is stipulated who would be responsible for foreign currency risk. Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Lawmakers moved to investigate reported delays in the issuance of passports at the Department of Foreign Affairs, particularly the ones for overseas Filipino workers. Nel Marie Buhok will tell us why.
So ang problema natin ngayon, 3 months na ngayon ang delay ng passport. Paano kung ikaw ay isang OFW na kailangan mong lalong-lalo na mga seaman, hindi pwedeng ma-delay ng isang araw yan.
ACOFW has received complaints particularly from overseas Filipino workers concerning delays in the issuance of passports at the Department of Foreign Affairs. According to ACOFW representative Enesito Bertiste, based on the complaints, length of delay is more than 1 month from the standard processing of 10 to 20 days. Based on their investigation, there are apparently congestions in the lineup of printing jobs at the APO production unit. APO is the printing office of the government that is under the management of the Presidential Communications Office.
Sa pag-iimbestiga natin, nakikita natin na ang may problema talaga ang APO. At pati na rin yung online application system nila, involved na rin dyan yung mga sindikato sa DFA na ang ginagawa, may mga contact yung ibang empleyado ng DFA sa labas ng mga travel agency na sige lang ang online nila.
Foreign Affairs Department respects the said probe. According to Assistant Secretary Charles Jose, it is the prerogative of the Congress to investigate in aid of legislation, especially if this will help improve the services of DFA. Nel Maribuho, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Filipinos in Singapore were overly excited and overwhelmed to see President Rodrigo Duterte in person in the PhilCom meeting. Rosalie Cos is at Singapore Expo Hall to tell us why live. Yes, Rosalie.
Good evening, Diego. After a 2-day visit in Singapore, President Rodrigo Duterte is now preparing for his departure to the Philippines. But before that, he was warmly welcomed by thousands of Filipinos eagerly waiting to see him here in Singapore. Around 7,000 of them cheered for him and enthusiastically listened to his speech about his war on drugs and corruption. Meanwhile, in an ambush interview, the president said he is fit to be the president of the Philippines because of the grave problem on illegal drugs, and he is not joking when he always threats he will kill criminals and those who will destroy the country and our children. The president reiterated his intent to continue his war on drugs, making sure to eradicate all the drug lords even up to the end of his term.
As long as there are drug lords, this campaign will go on until the last day of my term. And until all of them are killed, may I emphasize on that.
On the issue of the Millennium Challenge Corporation, which is a USAID agency, canceling the 5-year grant for the Philippines, President Duterte said he would be glad to lose it.
Lose it. Then I also suggest that they start packing.
Diego, President Duterte is expected to arrive at the Davao International Airport around 1 in the morning until 2 in the morning. That is our latest live here from Singapore. Back to you.
Thank you, Rosalie Cos, reporting live from Singapore.
The Bureau of Customs seized approximately 40 million pesos worth of glutinous rice from Vietnam. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
22 by 20 feet container trucks have been seized by the Bureau of Customs, which contain sacks of glutinous rice with a value of approximately 40 million pesos. The cargoes arrived in the Philippines last November 7 and 13 from Hong Kong, but the BOC Manila International Container Port made further investigation and found that the sacks of glutinous rice originally came from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. They doubted the content of the cargoes because the consignee was named after a ship's captain, but there were no details on which ship he was assigned to.
Pinangalan niya to sa mga barko. Gusto niyang itago na supply ng mga barko para makalusot. Medyo magaling yung mama. Makikita niyo, nagtap pa ito sa board. So he tried to outsmart us pero very glaring yung scheme.
The cargoes don't have import permits too.
Pag rice, worth 10 million and up, non-bailable na po yun. Magko-qualify na siya na economic sabotage. Definitely itong shipment na to magko-qualify.
BOC is preparing the cases against the smugglers, which may possibly be filed in January 2017.
Sabay-sabay po namin i-release. Once we file the case in court, we'll give you the names of these people involved dito sa smuggling of rice. If case will be filed against them, let's see what the court's going to rule. If it can be auction while the case is hearing or ayaw nilang ipa-auction.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Bureau of Customs.
Fish pen operators in Laguna Lake are worried over the decision of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, to stop the renewal of their permit starting next year. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
Zaldi Apasionado was a seaman from Callamard who decided to stop working abroad so he could be with his family. He invested the money he saved from being an OFW in a fish cage in Laguna Lake, the earnings from which is what he used for his family's daily subsistence. From a small fish pond, Saldi now has 3 fish pens which are 13 hectares wide. That's why Saldi feels so sad about the plan of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to no longer renew his license starting next year.
Palaking kawalan po ito sa amin. Hindi naman po kami yung mayayaman na kapitalista po. Talagang nagsimula po kami sa wala po.
Even the workers at fish ponds in Laguna Lake are also worried about the decision of the DENR.
Hindi ho makatarungan yung gusto niyang ipatupad para sa mga taong mahihirap. Parang pinapaboran niya lang yung mga taong mayayaman. Kasi ang palaisdaan ang inaasahan ng mga mahihirap dito.
They also have a call for President Rodrigo Duterte.
Ay hindi pwede kasi maraming mga walang trabaho tao. Sana Presidente Duterte, wag mong ituloy ang pagdidemolis ng mga pispan. Marami pong mawawalan trabaho tao.
The DENR has initially vowed to provide livelihoods to fishermen that might be affected by their non-renewal of license of fish pen operators next year. Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Informal settler families living by the riverside are grateful because they no longer have to live in constant danger within their own homes. Grace Casson will tell us why.
The 11 hectares Disciplina village is located in Valenzuela City. A total of 3,834 informal settler families are the main target recipients of this entire housing program. There are schools, clinic, and mini grocery stores inside the village. Because it is located in the city, there is easier access to jobs.
Kung dati-rate ang relocation sa labas ng Metro Manila, pero nahihirapan yung mga lumilipat doon dahil malayo sa kanilang pamilya, malayo sa trabaho, malayo sa kanilang mga mahal sa buhay, napagdesisyon ng pamalang lungsod ng Valenzuela na dapat dito lang kayo sa Valenzuela City.
The Prion family used to live along the riverside. According to Greg, he and his wife always worry when it rains because they fear that the river might suddenly rise. But now they have a safe place and a proper house for their children.
Noon na ilang beses nanulog anak ko dun sa hagdan, dun sa bahay namin una. Natatakot po. Pero ngayon, nawala na yung pangamba dahil maganda na yung tirahan na binigay sa amin.
Prion family is one of the 864 informal settlers families that were relocated to the biggest in-city relocation site in the country. The in-site relocation has been the project of Vice President Leni Robredo after she was appointed as chairman of HUD-C. The Vice President is hoping that the project will continue despite her resignation.
Nagkailang meetings na po kami, yung NHA, yung iba pong shelter agencies. Nag-meeting din po kami ng mga Metro Manila mayors, saka Metro Manila congressmen. Ito po yung ating binubuo na yung mga local government units na may mga gandang proyektong kagaya nito, parang ma-share po sa ibang local government units.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Valenzuela City.
The Provincial Hospital of Masbate can no longer accommodate the increasing number of patients being admitted to the facility. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Provincial Health Office estimates that not less than 200 patients are being confined daily at the Masbate Provincial Hospital. However, the hospital can only accommodate 100 patients. Even the hospital corridors and lobbies are being used to accommodate patients.
Marami naman po tayo ng kama o katre para sa pasyente. Kaso, ang problema namin is umabot pa rin sa time na kahit yung mga sobrang kama, pati ng teheras na hiningi namin sa DOH, nagagamit po lahat yun.
The previous local executive in the region constructed a 4-story facility in the hospital. However, it still lacks equipment and still has to undergo bidding. The Provincial Health Office meanwhile assures that the new facility in the hospital will open next year to accommodate the increasing number of patients. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
International or MCGI bring relief to residents of Barangay Mag-asawang Sapa in Bulacan. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
For the third time, UNTV and its partner in public service, Members Church of God International or MCGI, conducted a medical and dental mission in Barangay Mag-asawang Sapa in Santa Maria, Bulacan. The public service brought great relief to Rolando de la Vega, who has been suffering from recurring fever for 5 months due to severe toothache. Because of lack of financial resources, he could not undergo tooth extraction.
Matagal ko na nararamdaman itong sakit ng aking ngipin. Kaya pagkakataon na ito ay sinamantala ko para maipatanggal na ito pagkat ito na ang aking pagkakataon pang matanggal na lahat ng pain na nararamdaman ko.
58-year-old Reynaldo Samadan, who experiences age-related vision problems, also grabbed the opportunity to have his eyes checked and avail free eyeglasses.
Ang aking panlalabo ng mata, na lubos na dinaramdam ko ng siguro may kulang-kulang 3 taon na sa panlalabo. Hindi na makabasa ng malilit na words. Ngayon, nabigyan ako ng libreng salamin ng medical mission, mga tao rito, mga doktor. Ako nagpapasalamat po ako sa kanila. Sa malaking tulong po sa akin to.
Apart from medical and dental checkups, other free services rendered by UNTV and MCGI include haircut and massage. There were also some who were provided with free medicines for their various illnesses.
Marami po natutuwa dito sa medical mission. Nakita ko lang po ng mga tao masayang masaya dahil Mag-asano libre lahat, pati po gamot. Pero na kami masaya dahil kahit po malayo po ito, binigyan kami ng halaga.
Barangay Councilor Mary Jane Garcia, a former student of Kuya Daniel Razon, is exceedingly thankful for the help her constituents received.
Kuya Daniel, maraming salamat po. Sobrang napakalaki na po ng utang na loob ko po sa inyo. Bilang estudyante nyo po, alam ko po na may pagmamalaki nyo ako dahil patuloy po ang paggawa ko ng kabutihan sa ating kapwa. Alam ko na ang paggawa ng mabuti ay hindi magbubunga ng masama kahit isang araw lang.
Leslie Longbowen for Serbisyong Kasangbahay.
Coming up, poor parents in Venezuela give away their children amid deep crisis.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation investigates a massive breach in Yahoo user accounts.
And fans battle for costume supremacy in the opening night showing of Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
More from Y News after this break. The tail end of a cold front affects the eastern section of central and southern Luzon, while the northeast monsoon affects northern Luzon. Based on Pagasa's forecast, heavy rains will be experienced in Bicol region, Aurora, Rizal, Quezon, and Samar provinces. Light to moderate rains are expected in Metro Manila, Mimaropa, rest of Calabarzon, and of Visayas and Mindanao area. Light rains will prevail over the rest of Luzon. No tropical cyclone is expected to affect the country this weekend. As drought continues in Bolivia, concerns arise over purity of the water distributed to residents. RC Reyes will tell us why.
Concerns have arisen in Bolivia recently over the purity of water being distributed to La Paz residents as the country suffers through the worst drought in 25 years. Residents are struggling to find water throughout the country and particularly in La Paz. Many rely on water distributions from tanker trucks, but their safety is now being called in question. Athan Agramont, the Chief Executive Officer of Engineers Without Borders Bolivia, says many of the distribution trucks were once used to carry materials such as fuel and hydrocarbons.
Originalmente, este contenedor se lo utilizaba para transportar sustancias peligrosas. Sin embargo, ahora está transportando agua para el consumo humano.
Some reports say that signs on the trucks to warn of hazardous materials are being covered up. However, the military command in charge of water distribution says that the water is safe for human consumption.
Es posible que los cisternas que usted hubiese visto hayan sido viejos, como lo llama, o nuevos, pero yo sí le garantizo que el agua que se ha distribuido en cisterna es agua certificada.
So far, the government has provided aid, including bottled water, to around 145,000 families affected by the drought. RC Reyes, UNTV News and Rescue, Latin America.
The Australian government approves a second international airport for Sydney, paving the way for construction to begin in Australia's largest city. Nicole Reyes will tell us why.
As you've seen, the Western Sydney Airport is now approved for takeoff.
The Australian government has approved on Monday a second international airport for Sydney, opening the way for construction to begin in Australia's largest city on a project marred in political squabbling for 70 years. Sydney Airport Holdings Limited has first right of refusal to build the $5 billion Australian dollar or $3.7 billion US dollar airport, which the government hopes will boost inbound air passenger numbers to Sydney by about a quarter or 10 million people per year. The new airport is the centerpiece of Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's National Public Works Drive, designed to keep Australia's economy ticking over as a decade-long resources spending boom unwinds.
Will become a catalyst for investment and industry in Western Sydney. That is where Sydney's growth is. Western Sydney is and will be the fourth largest city in Australia in its own right.
Its location at Badgerys Creek in Sydney's western outskirts was first mooted in 1946 as the limits of the first airport, hemmed in by suburbs and the sea in the city's east, became clear. The project has been bogged down in partisan debate over aircraft noise, funding, and alternative sites ever since. Australian Infrastructure Minister Paul Fletcher says the airport's proposed 3,700-meter runway will be able to accommodate large Airbus A380 airplanes.
The plan is to develop the airport in stages. So the first stage is a terminal with capacity for up to 10 million passengers. The runway will be 3,700 metres. That is long enough to carry aircraft up to and including an Airbus A380, in other words, the biggest aircraft engaged in civil aviation, passenger aviation today. And so that means the airport will be able to support international flights and long-distance flights from the very outset.
The government said in an announcement that the venture is set for fulfillment in the mid-2020s, with Sydney's current airplane terminal moving toward most extreme limit. Nicole Reyes, UNTV News and Rescue, Melbourne, Australia.
Some poor parents in Venezuela claim that they are left without any choice but to give away their children. RC Reyes will tell us why.
Venezuelans suffer shortages of the most basic goods from food to medicine. Millions are going hungry amid triple-digit inflation and a nearly 80% currency collapse in the last year. Struggling to feed herself and her 7 children, Venezuelan mother Sulay Pulgar asked a neighbor in October to take over care of her 6-year-old daughter, a victim of a pummeling economic crisis. The family lives on Pulgar's father's pension, worth $6 a month. Breakfast is often just bread and coffee with rice alone for both lunch and dinner.
Yo lo entregué a ellos, a esa familia, porque había momentos que nosotros pasábamos hasta 2 días aquí sin comer. No es tanto uno porque uno aguanta, pero los niños, entonces, el más chiquito me pedía, la otra también me pedía.
Nancy Garcia, the 54-year-old neighbor who took in the girl, Pulgar's second youngest child, works in a grocery store and has 5 children of her own. She says she could not bear to see Pulgar's child going without food.
Yo le dije que yo no lo había hecho por un mal, que ellas tenían que aguantarse ahí, porque cuando yo tuviera posición mejor que con la que vivo, yo los volví a traer a la casa, pero por los momentos no puedo. En verdad no puedo, pues si consigo para uno, no consigo para el otro.
The government blames the United States and Venezuela's opposition, yet most economists pin the responsibility on socialist policies introduced by former President Hugo Chavez, which his successor Nicolas Maduro has doubled down on even as oil prices, the economy's lifeblood, plunged. Venezuela's information ministry did not respond to a request for comment. Arce Reyes, UNTV News and Rescue, Latin America.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, is now investigating the breach in Yahoo accounts, though the scope of the problem remains inconclusive. Robbie de Guzman will tell us why.
The White House on Thursday says it could not address the potential scope of vulnerable material from Yahoo Incorporated's most recently disclosed hack, adding that the FBI is investigating the breach.
What I can say is that the FBI is investigating this matter. There was a previously reported breach that the FBI had previously indicated that they were investigating, and they're investigating this situation as well. So I'll let them speak to what they have found over the course of that investigation thus far.
Ernest says U.S. investigators would have to ensure that releasing any public information about those behind the attack would not compromise the probe.
We'd want to make sure that revealing that information didn't undermine the ability of investigators to learn more about what had happened. So that will be the chief criteria that will be used in determining how and whether the FBI should make public who they have concluded is responsible for this particular breach, and that includes whether it's a state actor, a criminal organization, or some other entity.
Yahoo Incorporated shares fell as much as 3.8% on Thursday, one day after the company said that more than 1 billion user accounts were compromised in a security breach in August 2013. The number of users affected by the breach, the largest in history, was double the number implicated in a prior 2014 breach that Yahoo had disclosed in September. Verizon, which has agreed to buy Yahoo's core internet business for $4.83 billion, had said at the time that it might withdraw from the deal. Robbie de Guzman, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Facebook says it will roll out new tools with the help of some credible organizations to further secure the social media platform. Nina Armilio will tell us why.
Facebook has announced on Thursday it will introduce tools to prevent fake news stories from spreading on its platform. The social network company has faced controversies throughout the year that involve its monitoring and policing of content produced by its 1.8 billion users. It stressed that the new features are part of an ongoing process to refine and test how it deals with fake news. Facebook says users will find it easier to flag fake articles on their newsfeed as a hoax, and that it will work with organizations to check the authenticity of stories. If a story is identified as fake, Facebook says that story will get flagged as disputed.
and be linked to the corresponding article explaining why. The company says disputed stories may appear lower in its news feed, adding that once a story is flagged, it cannot be promoted. The new tools come weeks after Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg said it was a crazy idea that fake or misleading news on Facebook helped swing the U.S. election in favor of Republican Donald Trump. Ahead of the November 8 election, Facebook users saw fake news report saying that Pope Francis endorsed Trump, and that a federal agent who had been investigating Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton was found dead. The company in the past has relied mostly on users to report offensive posts, which are then checked by Facebook employees against the company's community standards. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippine. Fans battle for costume supremacy in the opening night of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Christy Rosacilla will tell us why.
Many outfitted in their favorite character's costume and garb were in countdown mode as they waited outside Hollywood's TCL Chinese Theater on Thursday night for the opening of Rogue One. The highly anticipated and latest entry in the Star Wars franchise has divided film critics, but is expected to bring in more than $300 million at the global box office this weekend. For the hardcore fans, including some who camped out overnight to secure their place at iconic theater, there is no doubt about the excitement surrounding its release.
Star Wars it's more than just a hobby. It's the people you hang out with. It's the movies you watch. It's the clothes you buy. It's so much more than just a film franchise.
This is just going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to be something that really brings back my childhood, as well as just having fun, being something new and exciting. So I'm really excited.
Among the events taking place prior to the screening included a Star Wars costume contest, and while the cast of characters taking part included your Darth Vaders, Jedi Warriors, and even a George Lucas look-alike. It was Queen Amidala who took home the top prize.
I made the entire gown from scratch. I quite literally had to make the material even. It took me 55 hours worth of research, 55 hours to sew it, and then it takes me about 2 to 3 hours just to maintain the gown from all the white stuff on my face. You know, these small little tears that happen in the gown. But I have to tell you, I have 22 screen-accurate Star Wars costumes that I've made from scratch. I have 5 here in the Man's Chinese Theater for the next couple months. I'm just so excited.
Rogue One arrives in theaters a year after the main cast of the original 1977 film reunited for The Force Awakens, which went on to take more than $2 billion at the box office. Rogue One stars Felicity Jones at the head of a brand new cast and follows a group of rebels who band together to fight the evil Darth Vader's plans for intergalactic domination. It is a standalone prequel to the 1977 film A New Hope. Christy Rosacilla, UNTV News and Rescue, Los Angeles, California.
Another championship caliber match awaits the UNTV hard court on Sunday. Warner Daddies will tell us why.
Warren, ganda ng pasa. That is so Colombia. That is so Colombia. Here comes Malacanang rushing. Wow, what a run.
Sunday's triple header brings two-time champion Judy Gerry Magis and Season 3 runner-up Malacanang team back to a showdown on the UNTV Cup hardcourt as they battle for the first time this season. The Magis, armed with 4 former basketball pros, is gearing up ahead of the much-awaited match.
Pinag-aralan namin yung plays nila, tapos yung transition offense nila. Kaya nitong laro namin, medyo alam namin kung sino yung mga titira. Kaya medyo nahihirapan din silang sumiyot sa depensa namin ngayon. Kailangan namin talagang manalo sa susunod na game para makabalik ulit kami sa semis. Tsaka number 1 team sa kabilang grupo yon. Kung matatalo namin yon, medyo lamang na kami sa panalo.
On the other hand, the Malacanang Kamao, with its new roster, has its mindset for a top bout against the former champs.
Handa naman yung team dyan na naka-mindset kami na ang treatment na lang naman namin sa elimination is hanggat tumatagal, kailangan malaman namin yung galaw, okay, at ano kaya ibigay ng bawat isa.
It can be recalled that the Magis and the Malacanang face in the Season 3 Finals Best of 3 series in which the judiciary merge as victors. Watch out for the Judiciary Malacanang Championship Caliber Battle on Sunday, 5:30 p.m. at the University of Makati Gymnasium, to be aired live only here on UNTV with live streaming via UNTVweb.com. Bernard Dantes for the UNTV Cup Season 5.
Have a happy weekend.
Yes, happy weekend everyone.
Those are the reasons.
Yeah,
Star
it's
Wars.
a Star Wars weekend.
Yes. Those are the reasons behind the news. December 16, 2016. I'm Angelo, Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Gerry Alcantara.
And I'm Darlene, Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching Why News.